Greetings, my delightful jelly spoons. And today, as you have probably guessed, I am here to talk to you about the brand new Season 4 of The Dragon Prince. One of the best shows that is on TV right now. Please go watch. If you haven't seen it yet, go. Return when you've watched it. I'll wait. Have you seen it now? Excellent. Then let's carry on. So, Season 4, The Mystery of Aaravos. Clearly the most dynamic and delightfully attractive character in the entire series, but moving on. The Mystery of Aaravos just dropped after a long wait for fans, desperate and eager for more. Here's hoping that we don't have to wait a stupendously long time for the next season. But don't hold your breath. So, in this devilish little episode of Monday Madness, I'm going to talk to you about Season 4, The Mysteries of Aaravos, and discuss the good, the bad, there was only one piece of bad really, and the hopes I have for the upcoming Season 5. Again, don't hold your breath waiting for that one. And if you are also feeling particularly devilish today, throw your opinions down into the comments below. I would so love to hear them. Alright, let's do it. Let's discuss Season 4 of The Dragon Prince, the mystery of the most wonderful character in the entire show. What do you mean I can't say that? You're no fun. Small side note, my wonderful jelly spoons. I, as most of you will be aware, am not a voice imitator nor a voice actor. So while I love the voice of Aaravos in the actual TV show, I cannot possibly hope to impersonate it. So this is my typical fey god voice that I use in my D&D sessions. It may sound a little bit like Artagon from Critical Role, but I promise you I was doing it first. Moving on. So let's start with something good, shall we? What was good about Season 4? Well, first of all, it starred me. So, there you go. It literally has my name in the title and my face in the opening credits. What more could you possibly want? Oh, you actually do want more. Right, let me just get my list then. The first thing that I noted down as being particularly excellent is not exclusive to Season 4, but it is still excellent, and that is the world building, and in particular, anyone who was working on the background art. Yes, the characters, the descriptions, how they all look and feel is absolutely wonderful, but the background scenery, I think, needs to get applauded on a regular basis, because the lands they are going through are just magnificent. Mostly, of course, Zadia, because I am a magical being and I much prefer the magical places, but the human world still looked delightfully human. You could tell the difference, as it were, between the two worlds. You could see exactly where people were, whether they were in a cave, whether they were in a beautiful forest, all the flowers, the trees, everything, the wind, the clouds, it all looked absolutely gorgeous. So a massive shout out to anyone who is working on particularly the background art. Yes, the characters are all amazing and all the character art is fantastic and the animation was wonderful, but the backgrounds, the scenery, setting the literal scene, I think needs to be praised because my god, do they knock it out of the park every single time. What's next then? Ah yes, I probably should have mentioned before, spoilers for the entire series of The Dragon Prince, including Season 4. You have been warned. But I did tell you to watch it earlier. Did you not obey me, you cheeky little thing? Moving on then. Zim as a dog. I don't think I need to say much else. It was delightful, it was comedic, it was beautiful, but more to the point, going back to those animators again, I firmly believe that if I had exited the room and left it playing, not that I would ever do this, but if I had been foolish enough to do so, I believe that I could have walked back into the room and without any context or knowledge noticed that that dog was Zim as a dog. Not just the characteristics and the colouring was right, but the animation was right as well. It was Zim as a dog. It was perfect, cute, cuddly and hilarious, but also animation-wise, astoundingly well done. On a similar note, I particularly enjoyed the dragon designs. I like how they are all built differently and have different mannerisms and shapes, different faces. While each of them looks like a dragon, they are all a distinctly different type of dragon, and that I particularly enjoy. And once again, massive shout out to the animators. It's not easy to distinguish between creatures like that, and they did it. Also, once again, a massive shout out to the brand new intro, starring me and my beautiful face. What a spectacular idea. And they changed it up a little bit in, I think it was episode 4, where they had Callum as the little statue I was playing with. Truly delightful. enjoyed that very much. Now, of course, I myself am completely exempt from this next one, as I do not need to change in the slightest, and I'm absolutely perfect just the way I am. Except, of course, for the whole, you know, being trapped somewhere that I don't know where and can't get out of thing. Other than that, I'm absolutely perfect and do not need to change at all. However, I did enjoy seeing the changes that came to all the other characters. It has been 2 years, we learn, and things have changed just a little bit. We see Callum and his developing relationship with his brother and his distinctly lacking relationship with Rayla. We eventually see how they've all aged and grown, what they're doing with their lives now, how the world has changed around them and how they have changed around it. That made more sense in my head. I've been in a mirror for ages, leave me alone. And spoilers once again, but again, you should have watched it by now, naughty, naughty. The scene in which the proposal happened, I do believe was one of the most enchanting things I've ever seen on television. I did guess what was going to happen before it did, but I think we were supposed to. I don't consider myself particularly special, or at least not any more special than I already am, for predicting that it was not in fact an ambush and was in fact a very romantic proposal with flowers and fire whips and this, that, and the other. It was sweet, beautiful, and endearing, as indeed most of the scenes between those two particular characters are. Sort of spoilers, but anyone who's seen it will know what I mean. And of course you've all watched it now, haven't you? Going back, if I may, to my own close personal acquaintance once again, I particularly enjoyed the character arc he attempted to have by denying me and refusing to have any association with dark magic, insisting that he could just live for 30 days and be fine, and then, lo and behold, right at the end, coming to see reason and rejoining my side. Oh, what a stunning character arc that was, and of course he came right in the end. Oh, and of course, how could we possibly talk about Season 4 of The Dragon Prince without mentioning me? What do you mean, not me? Who's Terry? Give me a moment to go rewatch and we'll talk about Terry. Alright, I have to admit, I find myself stuck in a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Terry. Before you start tearing me a new one in the comment section, please allow me to explain. As a character, as a personality, I adore him. His relationship with Claudia, the fact that he is slowly bringing out bits of good in her, and yet she seems to be slamming that door shut. Goodness me, where will that lead? Is she going to disappoint him greatly and leave him heartbroken as she turns to my side in the end? Or indeed, is she going to go off with Terry and turn to the good side? Well, I suppose that's a question for seasons 5, 6, and 7. But in the meantime, a word on Terry. As I said before, I loved this character. Engaging, enthralling, enjoyable, delightful, hilarious, and of course a wonderful piece of representation thrown in there. For some reason that most of you may be aware of by now, I in particular can relate to characters like Terry. That being said, I can never forgive Terry for the cold-blooded murder of the beautiful Skywing elf Ibis. I absolutely adored Ibis, and had a terrible, terrible feeling that something horrible was going to happen to him in this season, because he was with the Dragon Prince and the Dragon Prince's mother. I held out hope, but no, alas, my hopes were dashed, and he was destroyed. Not as I expected by Claudia, oh no, by my newfound love, Terry. And I just can't bring myself to forgive him. Though I was rather delighted that he, it turns out, has not forgiven himself. I very much enjoyed him sitting up in the middle of the night and crying about it. I was shouting at the screen, good, Terry, or rather bad, Terry. Feel bad for what you did, for the pain you have inflicted upon me, for the loss of my Skywing elf, Terry. But gosh darn it, he is just so likeable. So as I said, a love-hate relationship with the wonderful Terry. Also, a small side note about Terry, I do hope we all noticed the trans flag in the flowers that he was communicating with. Did we all spot that one? I hope so. If not, go back and rewatch it now. Alright, so we have spoken about the good, and a lot of good there was too, but I did promise you some bad, didn't I? I am rather good at that. So let's move on then to speak about the bad. There really only is one piece of bad, but it's rather a big one. Again, allow me to explain. Look, I very much enjoyed this season. I have rewatched it several times and will happily do so again. I am immensely looking forward to the following seasons and cannot wait to see where this story goes and where it all wraps up. That being said, I have to admit, as the end credits played on the final episode of Season 4, The Mystery of Aaravos, I found myself immediately going to the internet to do an internet search to see if Netflix was going to be dropping the second half of Season 4 anytime soon. I then realised that we had had the whole of Season 4. And again, while I had very much enjoyed it, I just felt like it was a tiny bit like filler. Bear with me, let me discuss this for a moment longer, please, before you start lynching me. I did enjoy it. I will be watching it again. I do not think that this drags down my opinion of the season. I still very much enjoyed it. However, I felt very much like the ending... Well, it felt a lot like we were exactly where we were at the beginning of the season. I wrote down some bullet points. Let me read them out. Now, because I am a devilishly wonderful being, these points are all scribbled down from the moment I finished watching the final episode of Season 4. So, here we go. Point number 1. Rayla is still hunting for my very special friend. Point number 2. Claudia, dear Claudia, is still attempting to bring her father back to life. Point number 3. My dear, dear friend is once again working for evil. Me. I'm not evil. I'm delightful. What do you mean? Moving on. Number 4. The dragons and the societies of men and elves are still divided. Point number 5. Aaravos. Oh, that's me! Aaravos is still stuck in an unknown well, there's no need to rub it in. Point number 6. Runan and Rayla's parents are still stuck inside those golden coins. Allow me to play the world's smallest violin. And point number 7, the overall goal is still the same. To stop Aaravos and my very special friend and Claudia. I don't think that sounds right. Why would you want to stop me? I'm doing nothing. Nothing at all. It's a good job my nose doesn't grow when I lie, isn't it? Now then, having since written down those points, I have in fact gone back and rewatched the entire series 2 more times. And so, if you will allow me, I wrote down 7 rebuttals to my own arguments. Here we go. Point number 1. Rayla is still hunting my dear friend. But Rayla is back with her friends and is not hunting solo anymore, and she now knows that he is definitely alive. So, things have changed in that regard, even if they are the same. Point number 2. Claudia is still trying to bring her father back to life, but Claudia has become almost as wicked and corrupted as her father, but is showing cracks, i.e. Terry. I don't know what they mean about wicked and corrupted. They're only friends with me. Point number 3. My very special friend is still working for evil, quote unquote. But, to rebuff myself here, he did waver and is now back to being quote unquote evil. That was rather charming, wasn't it? Him scrambling up the side of a mountain and regretting his life choices and second life choices and deciding that ultimately he really just wants to give it all up and go and live for 30 days and then die. Oh, how scrumptious that moment was, but he did ultimately return to the correct side. The arc was, however, very interesting. So while he is back to the same place he was, one could argue he has grown as a result, or his convictions have grown, I suppose. Point number 4. The dragons and the societies of elves and men are still divided. This is true, but society is changing and adapting, and the leaders are doing their best to help. Of course, this won't happen overnight. Now, this is very true. While it has been 2 years in the making, I was still not expecting to see elves frolicking around with humans in pure delight, skipping through Zadia and picking daisies. Absolutely not. We can be more realistic than that, I believe, even in this wonderful fantasy setting. Point number 5, then. Aaravos, oh, that's me, is still stuck in an unknown location. Okay, we don't need to rub this in anymore, do we? But, there is a but. we were never expecting Aaravos, the handsomest character in the entire series, to be freed this season. Were we not? I absolutely was. But seeing him a bit more and learning more of his backstory and the lore was very, very nice. Though we didn't get nearly enough of it considering that this season had his name in the title. That one I absolutely agree with. It was delightful to see more of me. However, this season was literally titled The Mystery of Aaravos. You definitely did not see enough of me to warrant that title, unless of course you mean The Mystery of Aaravos being, you know, the mystery is where the hell am I? Point number 6 then, Runan and Rayla's parents are still stuck in those ghastly gold coins. But Rayla now knows about the coins and in fact has them in her possession. And again, we were not expecting all of that to be resolved immediately in this season. Now that is once again fair. While the Runan and Ithari relationship is my absolute favourite, and I am dying to see the two of them reunited, I am realistic in my expectations and was not expecting that to happen this season. So I'm delighted that they made reference to it, didn't forget it, you know, like that poor brother in Supernatural who just never got spoken about again. I'm glad they didn't turn into a plot point like that. So yes, I'm disappointed not to have them back, but I didn't realistically expect them to be back this season, and therefore the fact that we have some progress in that direction, while it may be baby steps, is probably as much as I could have hoped for. Of course, this does mean that my Ithari cosplay will have to stay in the cupboard for another year, but oh well. It just means I'll enjoy him far more when I get into him next time. Moving on to the last point then. Point number 7. The end goal is still the same. Trying to stop Aaravos. And, you know, my friend and Claudia. But I rebuff myself. Thinking on it now, I suppose the goal doesn't need to change. After all, we are getting, 7 seasons? And this is season 4. Ergo, round about the middle. So it would make sense for it to be, for lack of a better word, a filler season. For a slightly chaotic example, think about the movie The Two Towers in the Lord of the Rings series. At the end of that movie, we weren't disappointed that they still had not defeated Sauron and destroyed the ring. In fact, we were never expecting them to have done so. Therefore, I feel I should be able to put some of those feelings onto this season as well. Another cheeky little example would be The Goblet of Fire, the 4th book in the Harry Potter series. Similar to The Dragon Prince, 4 out of 7 there. Ooh, it is a magical number, isn't it? But at the end of that book, the goal was indeed still to defeat Lord Voldemort and make sure he never overran the world again. We didn't complain about that. It was the middle book after all. We weren't expecting Lord Voldemort to have been vanquished in the middle book. So I am going to give that comment some grace, I think. While the feeling of it being a little bit like filler still came to me as I rewatched the show, I was more able to be forgiving and understanding upon further viewings. So while disappointingly at the end of season 4, I, Aaravos, am still woefully trapped, there is progress being made to get me out, and gosh will that be fun. And of course the main band of heroes are still on a quest. So all of that remains true, and will probably continue to be true up until the very final season. So then, while I still cannot help the feeling deep in my core that at the end of the 4th season of The Dragon Prince, The Mystery of Aaravos, it did end in pretty much the same place where it began, I still very much enjoyed the ride. And after all, we weren't really expecting all of their problems to be solved and their wildest dreams to come true in only the middle season, were we? So, to sum up then, if I had to put a number on it, I would very happily give season 4 of The Dragon Prince a 9 out of 10. Only missing the mark by 1 point, but well, not everything can be as fabulous as I am. What did you think? Chuck your thoughts down in the comment sections below, and if you haven't watched The Dragon Prince yet, what are you doing? Still disobeying me, you cheeky little things. Go watch it now. Also on another side note, that human was completely out of line. That candle should have been left to burn through the night, it had someone watching it, and it was part of a very sacred ritual. They knew what that candle was for, everyone was shouting it at them, but they didn't bother to learn, instead choosing to chuck a bucket of water over a tiny, pitiful flame used for a dead relative's soul. Yes, she deserved everything that came to her, and more than she got, to be honest with you. I have no sympathy and no pity. Well, thank you, puny jelly spoons, for indulging me in this week's episode of Monday Madness, allowing me to delight and charm you. If you do fancy breaking me out of my magic mirror, I do hope to see you soon. In the meantime, go and support this channel by going to the Ko-fi page and the Patreon. The links will be down below and somewhere on the screen, I've been informed. Basically, give this channel all of your love, attention, and coin. You know you want to. Go on, cough up. Oh, and by the way, because I look so fabulous, here's the full thing. Aren't I just a sight for sore eyes? I am the most delightful of them all. I did not realise that you could make the camera start by waving your hand. But that's good information to know. Alright. What is the third thing? I don't fucking remember. Bad, wait, bad. Get to be able to see the damn horns. Alright, there we go, that's better.
I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Do these horns are banging into my head.
Human, who's Terry? Terry. Bad Terry. Terry. Would you kindly just... Would you kindly just... You cheeky little thing.